And we welcome you back to Big Board Sports. Nice to have you with us. As promised, Julie Foudy joins us, ESPN soccer analyst and longtime captain of the U.S. women's national team. The stars of the world were ousted early. Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar. And the same can be said about defending champion Germany. And yet there was still drama and fanfare. And Julie, it's great to have you with us here on Big Board Sports. How are you today?
I'm great.
Julie, let's start with yesterday's final between France and Croatia, filled with excitement and scoring chances in the first half, and then the French side was able to open things up in the second half. In your opinion, what made the difference and what made France so good all tournament?
The thing that stands out in my mind actually is how complete a French team it was. We've seen in the past excellent French teams that typically, though, implode at World Cup time. And I think, when you saw a French team who was okay in the group stage, but then seemed to start to come to life in the knockout stage, and especially when they go down against Argentina and then come roaring back with those 3 goals in 12 minutes, it showed something. And that's the thing, even against Uruguay when they're pounding balls into the half, and they held on. So it shows something this World Cup, and I think Paul Pogba, for all the criticism he takes at Manchester United, in particular, showed a lot, and especially in that final match where he has the ball into Mbappe that he then finishes, 50 yards down the field. So, what a complete performance by that group. Just too much on the field for Croatia to handle.
And the highest scoring final since 1958. Croatia's path, of course, incredibly impressive when you consider what they're the smallest nation to play in a World Cup men's final since 1950. But Kylian Mbappe, and you mentioned his name, Julie, for people who I guess don't follow international soccer, he would be a name that really took people by surprise. What is it about his game that makes him so exciting? The speed, obviously.
Yeah, and the fact that at 19 years old, he's only the second teenager to score in a World Cup. The other one being someone, the casual fan has heard about, Pele. So he's so fast and explosive, and he turns a game. You're always looking for players that can turn a game on its head and be that difference maker, and his pace and his skill combined with it to get in behind defenses, he stretches out games, and we saw on multiple occasions when given the space, he can turn the corner and create havoc, and he was the one really that set up that third goal for Pogba.
Of course, you know about her U.S. women's national team history, a 2-time World Cup champion, a 2-time gold medalist, and a 2007 inductee into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Cool thing about that class, it was the first all-female class, Julie, going in with good friend and teammate Mia Hamm as well. Julie, what does this World Cup, without Team USA in it, is it possible that it still somehow energizes the fan base here in the States, and that maybe 4 years from now we are even a hungrier fan base when the World Cup comes around?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was remarkable to watch. You heard a lot of people who weren't soccer fans. We even got Michelle Beadle, to become a soccer fan this World Cup. And if that's happening, then, there's hope. You heard a lot of non-soccer fans saying that they had loved it. And the thing, too, that stood out to me is the teams that, did so well and energized the nation. One, France being a very young group coming into this, and then them, of course, winning it, but also England. I mean, Gareth Southgate, the manager of the English side, he took a really young team and did it in a really brave and bold way. And I think that's something that the U.S. could learn from. We took a very young team to the final World Cup tune-up qualifier that France had. The men's team, the U.S. men's team, played in France right before this World Cup and ended up playing them to a 1-1 tie. So by the transitive property, that makes us also World Cup champions now, I think, because we tied them before the World Cup, so we should be. But no, I mean, the idea that it was a younger squad, And you need to give those guys a chance. Obviously, you want to put them in a situation where you're not going to kill their confidence and their momentum, but you also have to be bold enough and find, a staff that's bold enough to say, I'm going to leave Wayne Rooney at home. Right? And I think for the men's team, they're going to come to a transition here where they're going to have to make those big decisions. And obviously, we need days to talk about the grassroots system and if we're doing all the right things there, which we're not. But I think one of the first things that we need to come to terms with is, let's give the younger players here a chance. This is maybe a message from other nations that you can do well with a younger group and if you make some bold moves.
Julie, we also want to ask you about your Sports Leadership Academy while we have you. Jessica Mendoza has been on this show before, and she talked about the great influence she had as a young female athlete. What is it that motivated you to empowering young players the way you do?
Well, the one thing that drives me crazy sometimes about sports is we parents always get in the way, right? We're great at messing up youth sports. And the thing I noticed when I retired from playing is, everything was about, what college are you going to? What level do you play? It was pressure, and there was no joy in what kids were doing. And I look at our national team for so many years, and the gift of sports is that it taught us to be better human beings and created all these great leaders in very different ways, from a Mia Hamm, who was more cerebral and quiet, to a Brandy Chastain, who we called our Energizer Bunny. But, everyone led in their own way. And I thought, why aren't we talking about the gift of sports and all the wonderful attributes you learn by just playing, and that you don't need an Olympic gold medal or World Cup, in your hand to show that you can learn these things, that parents need to focus on these gifts. So that was kind of the birth of it. And I just feel like sports is this great vehicle for teaching you about life, and we should spend more time on that, on character development. I wish we could do that at every club and every sport across this country, because it is this wonderful opportunity to do that in sports. We don't do it enough.
If you haven't seen the story Julie did with Special Olympics gymnastics, just pop on YouTube right now. Search Julie Foudy, Special Olympics gymnastics. It's incredible. And Julie, I've had the absolute pleasure and opportunity to do some work here in New York with Special Olympics. I don't need to tell you, certainly, how fulfilling it can be. But what is it about that organization that drew you in?
Yeah. It just cares deeply about creating an environment for these, adults and kids to experience sports in a really positive and fun way. And there, to my point earlier, there's so much joy in watching someone from Special Olympics put a jersey on or put one of those medals around their neck. And I love that. I feel like it's such a great reminder, too, in such perspective of why we play. And I think the Special Olympics has just done a phenomenal job of creating that environment. I will tell you, with that feature, which, we found out this Kentucky gymnastics team called themselves the Fab Five, named after the Olympic team, of course. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then we found out they emulate all these gymnasts, and and they're 5 world, famous gymnasts. And we had 2 days before that shoot. And when we asked them, can you do this for the Special Olympics? I know it's a tight turnaround. We just need a video, saying hi to these girls. Without hesitation, all 5 were like, I'm on it.
Wow.
What do you need? We love the Special Olympics. So I am not alone in our love for the Special Olympics.
Julie Foudy with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, of course, ESPN soccer analyst, but U.S. women's national team midfielder from 1987 to 2004, was co-captain or captain for most of that time. And Julie, if I could, just one more. I'm just curious as a fan, why was 1999's victory so much more influential than the 91? Do you have any idea?
99 happened here.
Yep.
91 we were in China, and we thought, because in China it was a pretty big deal, we thought, oh my gosh, and this is my the day before social media and all these different platforms where you could watch games. We thought, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal in China, it will transform how things, how people perceive this sport in the United States. And we came back to the United States after winning in 91, and there were like 2 people at the airport. That was our like bus driver and someone from U.S. Soccer who was treating us. No ticker tape parade, nothing. You know, I go back to college. I was at Stanford at the time, and my professor's like, "Where have you been? You need to make your final." I was like, "Well, hey, we kind of just won a World Cup," and he's like, "Sit down. You have 2 hours." And then '99, you know, we convinced U.S. Soccer and FIFA we should host it in big stadiums and do it here in the United States and set the standard for what it should look like and feel like. And FIFA, of course, said no. True story. And U.S. Soccer said, "We'll assume all risk then," and they did.
Wow.
And it turned out to be a huge success because we were courageous enough to think it should be done like that. So that's another good lesson for young kids we always talk about.